Hello, hello. You're listening to For the Girls, Gays and Theys, the podcast where two friends process their emotions concerning pop culture of note to the acronymed community. From film to television, music, and more, we're here to tell you what caught our queer eyes. This week, I'm Colt, he, him.
I'm Alex, they, them.
Welcome.
Welcome to it.
This week, we're talking the South London love story in Rye Lane, investigative reporting in Boston Strangler. He's a lover, not a fighter, Ted Lasso. And no, it's not a Fleetwood Mac biopic. It's Daisy Jones and the Six.
Yes.
To kick us off, the category is film. And I will be talking about Rye Lane.
Yes.
It is the 2023 British rom-com from director Rain Alan Miller that tells the story of Yaz and Dom, two 20-something South Londoners reeling from bad breakups who connect over the course of a day spent walking the streets of Peckham, Brixton and beyond. It is in UK cinemas now and comes to Hulu on the 31st of
1st
March.
of March. Yes, that's correct.
I loved this film
Woohoo!
so much.
Yeah.
I was smiling so big the whole way through. Now, I live in South London, so I fully admit that there might be a certain level of bias in seeing my neighborhood so lovingly presented on screen with its vibe so perfectly captured, and it made me so happy. I actually saw the film at the Peckhamplex, which is the indie cinema off of Rye Lane itself. But I think objectively the film is it is so vibrant, not just in color, but in tone. I think the writing is whip sharp and the direction and editing even sharper. It feels like such a distinctive debut film from director Rain Alan Miller. It feels so distinctive. I'm so excited to see what else she does in the future. And I'm thrilled that this film has been able to get on into international festivals and to have a wide release. I think it is so special. And considering the film is essentially a feature-length walk and talk, there are some really creative swings taken with the telling of certain stories, having fantasy sequences or like flashbacks from different storytellers' perspectives that just makes it so fun. And it's just so fun, Alex. It is such a fun watch. The leads are spectacular. Their comedy timing and their chemistry, spot on. I think this one is going to have a really special place in my heart. And I'm so looking forward to watching it again.
I was so excited after you watched it, and it actually came up on all my social media. It's Vivian Oprah and David Johnson, the leads. Yeah, and it's got 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. People love it top to bottom.
Yeah.
I've heard some people compare it in terms of a love letter to the geographical space, Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's that kind of energy?
I've heard that. I mean, I do not like that film, but I get the comparison in terms of representing a neighborhood and representing a feel. So I feel like that it's so representative of my experience of London, which is not necessarily always how London is presented. A lot of the times the London you see on screen is central London, like West London, North London. You don't really get as much of like the South London vibe, and I think I really enjoyed seeing that on screen, and it felt really distinctive. And it is nice reading reviews by Americans who have never been to London, never experienced London, who enjoy it just as much and sort of feel that distinct vibe, even though they haven't experienced it firsthand. It's screened at TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival, and that's how I've seen a lot of the early responses for the film were from sort of American critics that I follow and sort of awards prognosticators. I don't think it's necessarily going to be in the awards conversation. I would love that. I would love to see a little screenplay nod. It's definitely going to get some BAFTA love. I think that we can assume that in some way, shape, or form. Whether that's outstanding debut, I think definitely could get in for British film. Yeah, yeah. I loved it. I loved it so much.
It's great. And there's something about films that are sponsored by the British Film Institute that I always want to back because I
Mm,
think,
mm.
and I mean, don't get me wrong, it's also was given money by Searchlight Pictures and BBC Film and everything like that. But I just really love when we can see communities that aren't often
Yeah, yeah,
represented and with money from that institute. I think it's great. I think
yeah.
it sets the tone, I hope, for more of these type of stories because it's so
Mm,
exciting. And how you know it's
mm.
good is that the people who've seen it not only love it but want other people to watch it too.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great film.
Yeah, I remember coming out of being like, I have no idea what the US distribution is looking like for this, but I really hope you can see it.
Yeah.
And then I saw that it was coming to Hulu, and I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah. Shout out to Fox. I think
Yeah.
Fox organized that nicely.
Mm.
Awesome. I'm so excited to see that.
Right. Shall we move on to another Hulu original?
Oh no.
Alex, let's take a swing in a very different direction, shall we?
Oh, honey pie. Okay. So I think we all know that my tone shift is going to go to murder. So I'm going to be talking about the crime drama Boston Strangler. It stars Keira Knightley and Carrie Coon. You know Keira Knightley from gay pop culture. She's an icon. She's a legend. She is the moment.
Yes.
Pirates of the Caribbean, Pride and Prejudice, what have you. Carrie Coon, a lot of people will have seen in Gilded Age, which is big on HBO Max, but the woman is regal. She just
More importantly, The Leftovers is where you should know Carrie Coon from, because people should watch The Leftovers, even though not a lot of people did.
listen. He tells you that every episode, and I hope people are listening. So I've just got a note from our roving field producer who says, "How dare you not mention Keira Knightley in Bend It Like Beckham?" Yes, yes, gays all around the world. I know she's icon because of Bend It Like Beckham. Okay, thank you so much. Back to the matter at hand. Knightley plays Loretta Loughlin, and Coon plays Jean Cole. They're two reporters investigating a series of grisly murders in the greater Boston area. It's directed by Matt Ruskin, who you'll know from Crown Heights and The Killing. It's a tribute to journalism. I think Knightley is tenacious in this movie. I think she acts out of her socks.
Has a real presence to her.
Ooh, she comes in all guns blazing. I love it. And her sidekick Coon is she just gives you rich. I don't know how she does it. She just gives you, I have an elaborate life that you know nothing about. And I enjoy that about every character she plays. I love watching the two of them together uncover the connections between these murders. As the first to pursue and broadcast the connections in the paper, Loretta and Jean are well aware of the importance of information for the women all around Boston. The film's approach to the story is reminiscent of newspaper noir. So think David Fincher's Zodiac, but it doesn't carry the same kind of edginess. It's still entertaining. And as the murders continue, the movie evolves into a story about women in a predominantly male space, investigating a crime about women in danger. I loved it. And obviously, the main highlights were the women. The gentlemen with great background performances. My only thing is that it starts off and you feel like you're definitely getting Zodiac, like you're feeling the vibe, you're in your newspaper noir, and it has an energy and it tries to give you a bit of danger in the reenactments of the murders and all of that, but eventually it kind of just swings into a woman obsessed kind of a thing. And I do wish they'd left more room for the story of Loretta and the story of her life falling apart. and kind of fighting for this. I think that would have been interesting to see too. I would have loved
Mm,
to see more of Jean. I think
yeah,
Jean did a lot of work too. I would have loved to see more of that. But I know that it's not a 3 hour movie, thank God.
yeah.
I think the end of the film was probably the one that will leave most people with like chills up their spine. The
Mm,
truth of the matter and the truth of the murders, I think,
yeah.
and the fact that a lot of it is
The
unsolved. So
whodunit of the whodunit. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm,
and it makes you ask a lot of questions about the men who are working those cases
yeah.
and
Yeah.
the other men who committed those crimes.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I love the movie. Small critiques aside, little things aside, I think if you like Matt Ruskin's other work, you're going to love this. If you love seeing Keira Knightley act her socks off, you're going to love this. If you love seeing Carrie Coon float into a room and just steal a scene, this movie's for you. I loved it. What did you think of it?
I liked it.
Oh,
I don't think I'll be revisiting it. So I was sort of like, I'm enjoying this. I like it, and I
yeah.
was gonna. I have this thing when I log something on Letterboxd where if I will watch, if I think I'll watch it again, I give it the heart. I like it,
Mm.
and sort of towards the beginning, first sort of half,
Yeah.
well, first third, put it that way. First third, I've been thinking, I think I'm gonna like this. I think this is gonna be a like. And then in the middle, it was like, yeah, I don't think I'll be revisiting this. It lost me a little bit in the middle. The ending, as
Yeah.
you say, is stronger. I do think that getting to that reveal could have been a little snappier
Ah, yes.
in the construction. Like from the moment where you're presented with mild spoiler warning here for a decades old case, but
Yeah.
basically
From
they have a guy that they arrest, has a confession. Between that happening, that confession happening, and the revelation of, oh no, he maybe did one of these murders,
mm.
and that it was actually several people, several men, specifically. That portion, I think, could have been streamlined. I think that's where I was really reaching for my phone.
Yeah,
Like
I
it
agree.
started. I was like, okay, we're still going. Okay, okay, right.
What I would say is you need to have that strong beginning and have a strong ending that focuses on the fact that this is all still up in the air, 12 of the murders at least, and
Mm.
then kind of take that flabby middle part and make it a little more about unraveling. I would have loved to see Keira Knightley with about 5 minutes of just going to absolute pieces, like
She
Rue in
is
Euphoria.
she is very good in this, and she is
Okay.
definitely the highlight. But she doesn't have. I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of. I didn't get a lot of layers.
Yeah.
I
Well,
thought
she wasn't
that
given opportunity to like.
yeah, and I
I don't
think that
know.
that is more of a writing thing and not her
Yeah.
performance. Like her performance
Yeah.
was good. I don't necessarily think that it was very she was given enough
Yeah.
to
To fall
go
apart,
there
and
with.
I would have loved
Yeah,
it if it did. So okay, we focused a bit more on my critiques, but overall, I would say give it a watch.
yeah, yeah. I
Honest,
think it's
it's good.
definitely worth a watch. It has
Yeah.
that. You mentioned Fincher. It definitely has a Fincher feel. I can definitely
Yeah.
sense
In
that
that
he was
first bit,
huge
especially.
influence
Yeah.
on the director.
Cool.
More the sort of Mindhunter feel than say like
Yeah.
Seven or Zodiac. More Mindhunter, more the sort of recent stuff.
Mindhunter is on Netflix. If you've missed it, if you've lived under
Yeah,
a rock, very good. And has Jonathan Groff as the lead. Very good.
yeah, and also features Anna Torv. We can't not mention Anna Torv when the opportunity presents itself. Lesbian icon who's not a lesbian. Is she
I
one
don't
of
know,
those?
but I mean,
Is she
somebody
a
needs to tell
Natasha
her
Lyonne?
face. I don't
I
know.
feel like yeah, I feel like she's a lesbian
Oh, I don't
lesbian
know.
icon, whether or not that is her lifestyle or not. Much like Natasha Lyonne.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. With that,
Yes.
we're going to take a quick break and we will be right back. And we're back.
We're
And the
back.
category is television. And I'm going to take us over to Ted Lasso.
Mm.
It is the sports comedy developed by Jason Sudeikis, Bill Lawrence, Brendan Hunt, and Joe Kelly. It tells the story of an American college football coach recruited to coach the fictional English Premier League team AFC Richmond, despite having never coached a soccer/football team before. The series is populated by standouts like Hannah Waddingham's Rebecca Welton, the team owner, Juno Temple as model turned PR agent Keely Jones, and Brett Goldstein as curmudgeon with a heart of gold, Roy Kent. The show
Brilliant.
is back for its third season on Apple TV, the first episode dropping March 15th. And I think it continues to push the show's message of believing in yourself and prioritizing kindness.
Yeah, in the first episode, I think it definitely it carries some of the messaging of the previous seasons.
Mm.
But do you think this episode is more about Ted and the fact that his little, not thin veneer, but his face of being positive in everything, it's definitely slipped a bit and he's trying to pull it back up, but he's struggling against himself and he's struggling to stay positive, which is very real. We've all been
Yeah,
there.
that's what I was going to say. I think it's a very sort of realistic portrayal of that, of like he is a person who wants to be positive, who wants to see the good in people and in situations, and wants to, like I say, prioritize kindness.
Mm.
But he is also a person who's completely uprooted his life and is now in a position where a lot of us, especially us two on the pod, can very deeply relate to, of being like,
Yeah,
oh, I've made this monumental thing. Was that the right thing? Was it worth it? Is this what's making me happy now? And still trying to find the joy, still trying to find the positive spin on things. So I think it's really interesting that the show is not just doing the thing of like we're the positive happy show.
yeah.
There is depth. There is, and that depth was presented in previous seasons.
Yeah,
And
the
I think
Christmas
it's,
episode, I think it was there too.
yeah, yeah. And having sort of Ted's panic attacks and depression and other characters going through similar situations, but sort of working through it and sort of coming out the other end, but not in a typical sitcom way of, and everyone was fine by the next episode and everything's back to normal, because it's
Yeah.
not. When you go through these things, you go through them and they have an impact, and I think the show is very aware of that and has very much made a concerted effort to develop on that. And I think that the
Mm.
characters are very layered and very, as much as they're sort of presented as sort of caricatures of positivity. And I've heard people describe the show as sort of a poster child for toxic positivity. And I don't think it is, because I don't think it is just, I don't think it is
No,
a thing
not at
of
all. It's the
just be
opposite of
happy.
that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
it's the opposite of that. It's an
you go
exploration
you go
into
through the
yeah,
things, you explore the
yeah,
things, you sort of, you bask in them, but then you also ultimately choose to be kind to the people around you, and believe that, believe
exactly.
in and believe in the innate good of people, or believe in, yeah.
I agree. I think that it's an exploration into what it means to be the positive person and how somebody realizes that about themselves and then tries to work on it and understand why they always try to be the positive person. But it's much more than just Ted and his toxic positivity and him working through it in therapy. I think it's also about people and how
Mm,
we
mm,
affect each other, whether it's going to sit and have lunch with your friend and letting her cry on your shoulder, or whether it's
yeah.
your dad sending you a message via your mom that he's displeased with you. Like these are great things to remember, and there's a lot to relate to in the show, not just for me, but I
Mm,
think for most people. I think when he's kind of walking down the street going, "Why the fuck am I still here?" You
mm,
kind of you get it, and then you see him sit there and realize it's the answers within himself. He's still a bad
Yeah.
bitch. I think like the great thing about this show is that it's an ensemble, and that
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't. It's not one note, number one, in what it covers, but it's also it gives all the characters room to be great. Hannah Waddingham is just
Yeah.
so good. Juno
Yeah.
Temple. I don't know how they haven't made 30 movies with that woman. She is just
Yeah.
fantastic.
And the ensemble of the actual football players is also
Yeah,
really great. And I think
so
that's
good.
like the thing that I very much took away from, especially the first season, the first couple of seasons,
Mm.
was the presentation of a more positive form of masculinity,
Yeah,
of having people who can sort of be comfortable in their masculinity and can still be very quote unquote masculine, quote unquote macho, but without being destructive with it. Because you have
yeah,
Roy Kent, who is an incredibly sort of stereotypical man's man, but is also really in touch with his feelings and is very tender and very very there and very present for like his niece and for the people around him. And I really love that about the show, because the actual like footballing world is not that. And
no, it's
I
not
say
at
that as someone
all.
who's sort of worked tangentially in that environment. That is
Not so
so
bad.
rare in that environment. Like it's
It's awful.
very unusual. I've met, granted, some good people in that environment, but I've also met some of the worst people I've ever met in that environment. And yeah,
if
I
you
doubt
if
they'll be
you
listening to this because I believe that they are in prison.
There should be. Um, if you like Roy Keane and you want to see and you like British football like I do, Roy Keane is sort of the quiet reference.
Mm-hmm.
And he is brilliant and he is funny without meaning to be. He's so curmudgeonly and so angry all the time, but he's great. And I love the little. It's not a show about football, which I think Bill Lawrence has gone to pains to tell people. I was doing
Yeah,
some research into this, and he, in the writers' room, was banging the table, telling everybody it's a workplace
it's a
comedy.
workplace comedy. Yeah, it's a
God,
sitcom.
how
Yeah.
dare you? And I think that's valid and true. But there are little nods that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Roy Keane, one of them. Jose Mourinho, Wunderkind, another little nod that I enjoy. Like there are little ties, little hat tips
Mm.
that are really great from the outset and throughout. I think it just works on a lot of levels. This show, and it's
Yeah,
good.
I think it is that rare show that walks the line also between American and British comedic sensibilities.
Mm,
Like it's written by Americans, but it's still set in London and with a lot of British actors.
yeah.
And I think there's a lot of British, well, not a lot of, there's a handful of British writers in the writing team, including Brett Goldstein. So it has that really great balance of those two senses of humor, so which makes it incredibly funny to me, while also still being deeply moving, like we've mentioned. The show has a lot of detractors, though, that I became aware of when Aubrey Plaza's White Lotus character claimed to have never watched it. When that
um,
like line happened, people seemed to like flock to Twitter to be like, "Yeah, same girl, so basic," and I'm like, "Okay,
well, people
fuck you
don't.
if you don't like Joy." Then, but
Yeah,
honestly, I
people
find
don't
it. I
really
find
like
the show
joy.
delightful. I find it extremely
Exactly.
likable and joyful,
Mm.
and as I said, incredibly funny while also being deeply moving. I mean, obviously, it's been well received in general, because the show received 39 Emmy nominations across its first
Mm.
two seasons and 11 wins, including Best
Mm.
Comedy 2 years in a row, as well as acting gold for Jason Sudeikis, Hannah Waddingham, and Brett Goldstein. So,
I mean, people are gonna hate. That's the nature of people, especially when it's a happy, positive thing. And I'm not
yeah.
detracting against all Americans. I love America. I love being here. But the thing is with Americans and joy is they hate it. If somebody is happy, if there's banter going on, oh God, they don't like banter around a serious situation. And this show does banter around some very serious situations, and Americans just don't
Mm-mm.
respond well to that. They're they're a different bunch. And I think for me, it's, it definitely leans more, even though, okay, so to be fair, created in 2013 for an American audience for an ad, and
Right.
then became the TV show. So
Yeah.
I know who created it. I know what it was for, but in
Yeah.
the form it's in now, I think it just has that sensibility that some Americans will turn off. And I appreciate that. I mean,
Yeah.
fine, you don't have to like everything I like. You just have bad taste. It's okay.
You're perfectly entitled to your wrong opinion.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right, moving on to the next item of business.
Mm.
Alex, what television show have you got for me?
And now I'm going to dive into the world of music and talk about the Amazon Prime miniseries Daisy Jones and the Six. It's based on the 2019 novel of the same name by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It's about a fictional rock band, fictional, and their rise to fame in the 1970s music scene in Los Angeles, which was sort of, if you've seen Almost Famous,
Mm,
you know the vibe, and experience an especially dramatic split at the height of their success, which is what you build up to from the very first episode. It stars Riley Keough as the enigmatic lead singer Daisy Jones and Sam Claflin as the talented but troubled songwriter Billy Dunn. It also has Suki Waterhouse, Timothy Oliphant, and it's pretty great. I mean, as you might have guessed, Jenkins Reid said that the inspiration for the novel was partly drawn from Fleetwood Mac.
sure,
Right?
Jane.
Yeah. Riley is obviously, as many of you might know, but some of you might not, she's the granddaughter of Elvis Presley. She has chops up the wazoo. It's received critical
Thought I
acclaim for
recognized her face.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
She's incredibly talented. Obviously, her life, her real life, has gone through some serious drama since the press run for this
Yeah.
show. It's been kind of
Yeah.
ugly, but she's managed to keep it
Hmm.
very classy, which is tricky when you have family drama.
Hmm.
And it's been praised for its performances, for its production design, which is beautiful. My thoughts, and I know you've seen some
Hmm.
episodes, so please,
I've seen the
you
first
know,
one. Yeah.
okay, so please, hand me my ass if you disagree. But to me, as somebody who read the book and loved the book, I read the book more than once. It just doesn't capture the same type of magic
Mm,
as the book, and I think a lot of
yeah.
that is actually down to the music. The awful thing about my head is that the music sounded much better to me when I was reading the book.
Right.
Then when it was actually done, the main song
Yeah.
Honeycomb that kind of pulls you through the story, I think it just didn't have the same type of impact as I remember it having in the book, and I have no idea why. Obviously, there's chemistry between the two leads. You have that, but I also just, it's not bad.
Mm,
Uh,
I
it's
will
just
tell
not
you,
great.
I really, really struggled to get through the first episode.
Yeah.
It was a struggle bus. Every time those boys came back on the screen, I was like, why am I here? Why did Alex make me watch this? And then Daisy would come back on screen, and I'd be like, okay, I'm more invested
Yeah.
again. And then she sort of got more screen time towards the end of the episode, and then I started getting more drawn in. So I do want to like watch the next one. I'm not in any huge rush to watch the next one, but I will say
You'll
that I
take
did
to.
struggle to get through that first episode. I don't. The comparisons to the Fleetwood Mac story are glaring. I recently watched a documentary about the Fleetwood Mac story.
Yeah.
So when I started this episode, I'm like, this is it's the same picture. Um,
I couldn't
but
get
I
that over.
did really like the
Yeah.
music. Like that, I will say that like not having any sort of frame of reference to me, it sounded like a really great Fleetwood Mac cover band. Um,
Oh, yeah, I mean, okay. I think for me, it sounded closer to Mumford and Sons, and I think the guy from Mumford and Sons helped with some of the music.
yeah, that makes sense.
It just, I don't know, maybe we just needed a bit more of Stevie Nicks' hand in the show. I mean, if you're gonna tell the story, which is of one of the most iconic sorry to Mick Fleetwood, one of the most iconic musicians in the
Women.
history
Yeah.
of music. You know, if you're
Hmm.
gonna sort of pass Stevie Nicks' story, why not have Stevie Nicks' input? The woman's alive. She could tell a story like nobody else. She lived through these things. I think it needs like a little bit of something, you know, when you taste the stew
Yeah.
and it needs salt. It needs something. I've heard that the
It
episode
was dry. It just that first
so
episode to me just
dry.
felt really dry and
Mm,
really quite formulaic.
yeah.
And I thought that the boy characters were all just very bland and uninteresting to me.
Sorry to Sam Claflin. I'm sorry, guy,
Oh, he's
but
beautiful, beautiful to look at.
beautiful, beautiful boy.
His
Beautiful guy.
character's dull as mud.
Dollars, man. I just in the books there was so much more. I guess because you just kind of get people's inner monologues and you kind of, but you
And
don't even
also,
get that in the book
sometimes
that way. I don't know.
things just work better as a book. Sometimes that's just the reality of media, is that sometimes things don't translate well into. I don't know, maybe it's the documentary feel that that first episode has. Does that keep up the whole way through?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does.
That doesn't that doesn't work for everything. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It just that it didn't
It
excite
didn't
me.
give.
That
Yeah, it
first
just
episode
didn't
didn't
give.
grab me. I mean, gay Twitter really loves the ending, so
I hope
I
I
feel like
get
I might
there.
stick it out to the ending.
I hope I get to the ending, Mary. I hope I get
Just
there.
because gay Twitter's told me that I should be excited, but I'm just like,
They have. They're into it.
if if I had no other episodes available to me, and that first episode came on TV, and this was the olden days when you actually watched TV when it aired live, I wouldn't tune in the next week. I would have forgotten about it by then.
She's right. I agree with you. I'm sorry to the people who produced this. I'm not trying to shit on it. They've done a great job on various things. There's just something missing. So
Yeah.
overall, I would say if you have anything you else to do, do it. Don't watch this. If you
Go read
want
the
to
book instead,
go
is
read
what
the
sounds like
book,
you're telling me.
go
Go read the
read the
book
book.
instead.
If you want that.
Go read the
What
book and
other
listen to rumors, you know.
listen to rumors and also watch Stevie Nicks' Oprah Masterclass. She
Oh.
just lays it out. It's on YouTube, the whole thing. Go watch it. Like it's that woman. Oh, there's a story about her keeping cocaine in her boot. I just, I don't know. I love her. I love her. But I'll move on.
Love
now.
that woman. Yeah.
Just so great.
Anyway, on that note,
Yeah.
we're out of time. Thank you so much for listening. And if you would like to follow us on socials, you can find us at girlsgaysthay_pod on Instagram and TikTok. And you can watch video versions of this podcast on YouTube.
Yes, you can. And join us again next week for another sip of queer culture.
Cheers.
Ooh, beautiful mug, baby. You better work. Yum.